Coach. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this SimpleCoach interview. Really do appreciate you taking the time. I know it's we've gone back and forth for the last couple months trying to coordinate and get to the date. So really thankful that your calendar cleared up and you decided to hang with me.
I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, so if I got this right, you've been the head coach at Occidental for 12 years. Did I get that right? 12, 13 years, something like that?
Yeah, started in 2010. Yeah.
Nice. What's your experience been like, and what's your soccer journey been like, and how did you end up at Occidental?
Yeah, I've been in Southern California my whole life. So I played until I was 26 years old. And through that time, I was coaching, got my master's degree, and did all that as well. So I was playing, coaching, and doing school. And during that time, I actually coached a player who ended up going to Occidental. So he kind of had his career. And when the position opened up, for me, I just finished playing at 26. I'd coached him a few years prior to that. And then he just kind of suggested my name to the athletic director. And, as it turns out, then went in the interview as a 26, 27-year-old, somewhere around there, just kind of finished playing and been coaching for a while, but not collegiately, just high schools and clubs and doing all those things. And then I made it into the final three. I didn't get offered the job originally. They offered somebody else. Actually, I think they offered it to somebody else's who turned down the job. And they got this young 26-year-old who was eager to work and make a difference in a program. And that's kind of how I ended up at Oxy, blessing and some luck involved as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you weren't set out the moment you graduated to become a coach, did you? I mean, you were like
No.
all of us, like, still want to play and.
Yeah. So it's funny because when I was going to get my master's degree, I love history. So the goal, actually, believe it or not, was either to become a professional soccer player or a history professor. Those were like the two things that I had in my mind. And, it's funny that college soccer coach is sort of a marriage of those things, as it turns out, but that definitely wasn't the original goal.
Yeah. So there you go. There's that common theme. I was also a history guy. I was also becoming a history professor and actually started some doctoral work and then realized how much I hated studying. And it just, happenstance.
Totally.
Totally.
Like I remember trying to do the research and like thinking, I can't wait to get out on the field, and I love the research. I was fine doing research, but I just couldn't wait to keep getting out there, and it's always that tug. For sure.
Yeah. Hey, have you noticed the difference in players through the years? Do you think they've gotten better? I mean, you played at a high level. So if anybody doesn't know, like I think you played or you trained with the Galaxy. I mean, so it's not like you're playing in the over 50 league as a ringer, right? Like you played at a really high level. Do you think players have been getting better?
Yeah, it's funny. We always talk about this. Yeah, I played Division I soccer. I played, and yes, I was with the Galaxy Reserves, and then I was with other divisions in American soccer for about 4 years. Having said that, I could still be a ringer for an under 50 league or over 50 league if needed. But so if that offer's on the table, let me know. I'm happy to get my boots on. But
they eat burgers afterwards.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just leave the bread off, maybe. But anyway, so I think that we always have this debate, meaning like my generation of guys, like, right, that we played and we're like, gosh, I think we were better than them or they're better than us or whatever the scenario is. And it's all nonsense anyway. But there's a bigger pool of players, without a doubt. And the players have more resources. I still think that there were some players that would have been special at any time. And there's special players now that are different, unique. I mean, there's like 7-year-olds that watch Neymar videos on YouTube, right? Whereas when we were 7, that wasn't a thing, right? So we wouldn't have known what that was, right? So there's elements to that where players have resources and tools. Better overall, you'd like to hope we're always progressing, and you'd like to always hope that life is progression. But this is probably like a big conversation anyway, like with soccer, do we think
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
guys are better from the 1980s? Was Pele's era better? Was Maradona's era better? Was Zidane's era better? Is now better?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
tough,
yeah.
a fun debate,
This could totally be a podcast unto itself. Are players better, and
Yeah,
you can make arguments on every possible side, and then the sides of the sides. Like there's just so many ways in which you could argue or debate that one. They're definitely different, right? Like the players
yeah,
today, and like you said, access to things, and I think. So I'm going to get in trouble. I think they tend to be a little bit more robotic, and I don't mean that because they're not good players, but because I just think the environment that we've sort of honed in on the club, it's not as random and as at least when I was growing up, where it was like you just went wherever you could find a game, and it didn't matter where, when, who you ended up playing, and So anyhow.
yeah. It's true. You can see the development you can almost look at it in the national team developments. We don't have great nines and tens. We have
Yeah,
very good other players that are kind of not robotic, but maybe
yeah,
just that like the roles
yeah,
are clear, right? In every
yeah,
position where roles are clear, American soccer produces those very well. In roles where,
yeah,
okay, as a 10 or a 9, and there needs to be some creativity, maybe a little bit of a winger as well, we're not as good at
yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Like I hadn't even thought of it that way. That's a great point. That is true. Like the traditional defined roles of players, and that's generally in the back, right? Like we tend to be good, and then once you get further up the field, where you need a little bit more, you need that creativity, or maybe we're not so good. And I'm not
Yeah.
even going to enter in the whole Gio Reyna debate thing
No.
nonsense. So
Yeah. Well, that's a funny part, I guess, right? Obviously, it happens at every level, right? Like, mommy and daddy aren't
yeah,
happy, and
yeah,
the coach is going to know about it because, you know, I'm an MLS Academy director as well, so I still see
uh-huh.
all that stuff on the club side too. So it's
Yeah,
funny, but that's American
that's
soccer
awesome.
for you, right
That's
there. Which is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. In a nutshell, totally
Yeah.
captured everything about the game, the good, the
Yeah.
great, and the terrible, all in
Yeah.
wrapped in one. So,
Totally.
um,
Totally.
hey, can you give me your impressions of the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference for those of us on the East Coast who don't get as much visibility to it? I know it has Cal Lutheran, Redlands, Caltech, who I had a conversation with them, and Claremont Mud Scripts, which was on, for obvious. I think that got highlighted in a not so positive way, but they're part of it. So if you could just give me your impressions, competitiveness, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's 9 of us in the conference in Southern California, so I think for me, it doesn't get enough credit. I think there's so much talent in our groups because we're really the Division 3 programs on the West Coast. We have some Pacific Northwest teams
Mm-hmm.
that are also there, but there's not a lot of Division 3 programs, and there's so many soccer players that would love to stay on the West Coast. So if you're reasonably speaking academic, and you want to go on the West Coast outside of the Division 1 options, that not even all of them are academic, it means that our schools become the next
Mm-hmm.
options available. So I think we're hugely competitive. I would take, if the NCAA tournament somehow could come to the West Coast instead of us always traveling east or to the central area, central part of the United States. I actually think we'd fare really well. I feel like that travel is worth a goal, and every time teams come into California, they're not winning a lot of games. It's rare. So, I think
Mm-hmm.
part of it is we just don't get the opportunity, as much because East Coast teams don't need to play us. Midwest teams don't need to play
Mm-hmm.
us. We're sort of like on an island out here, but I think we have
Yeah.
great players. I mean, all of our
Yeah.
teams that I'm coaching and that we're coaching against, they all have MLS Next kids, ECNL kids, top club kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love
Mm-hmm.
the level that we have. I would just love if people could see it more often.
Yeah. Let me ask you that. So, so is travel your biggest or obstacle in terms of I'm just going to say success. I don't mean it in the terms of
Oh,
winning a
sure.
national championship, but like having a team go further in the NCAA's to make it to Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge that you have is, right, if you have 50 or 60 teams that make the NCAA tournament, certainly only like 3 or 4 from the West Coast. So certainly just numbers now, right? It's just a matter of,
Hmm.
okay, well, if there's 55 teams or 60 teams, 57 are not from the West. So that's just makes it harder.
Hmm.
But then we all play each other to get out,
Hmm.
right? So then by the time you get to the
Yeah,
second round, there's only one of us
you're
left no matter
one
what,
of yeah,
or like no
yeah,
matter what happens. So now you're talking about
yeah,
every time by the time we get to the round of 16, you've we have to eliminate each other. So I
yeah,
think that's a big part of it. But even if you could have those 4 teams and somehow put them in all different brackets, but also bring those teams west, I just
yeah,
think you would see a difference automatically there too. I think that's a big part of it.
yeah.
I do.
What's your like average travel time for your away schedule? Do you know? Is it like 2 hours average,
Yeah,
five
that's no that.
hours?
Yeah, that's the funny part. Like, no, 45 minutes, an hour everywhere is an hour at the most, with the exception of one school, which is about 2 hours out. So this 2 hour drive for us
Uh-huh.
is like, wow, this is far, in our conference, because everything for us is if we
Yeah,
have a game at 7, for example, 7 p.m., we're leaving at 4:30. Like we get there at
yeah,
5:30. That gives us more than enough time.
hmm,
And then, we're back by 10.
yeah,
So, 10,
hmm,
15. So, yeah, we have a blessing of that. I mean, kids don't miss
yeah,
class. We're in, we're out, we're not in a bus. Like, it's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah. Which is, I think, a big advantage
yeah. But
in
that
our
is
conference. Good.
yeah, yeah. But right, and then they were asked, "Hey, you got to go to Colorado to play for a regional game or something like that in the NCAA's," and then you get blasted because right, like anyone can get used to it, but if you haven't experienced it during the season, you have no idea how that impacts you, fatigue, travel, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. It always becomes difficult. I mean, over the last couple of years, a lot of our teams have tried to do a travel in the preseason,
Hmm.
where you get
Yeah,
out to Texas, you get out to the Midwest
yeah,
somewhere just for that preparation component. But it's not the same
yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think
yeah,
what Chapman. So Chapman who beat us in the final. They went to Texas. I think lost in the first round 2-1 in a tight game. To I think the team that
yeah,
went to the round of 16. So, I think that goal would have been, I mean, I
yeah,
think that travel would have been worth one goal. I really think it had that team from Texas
yeah,
come to LA, or, you'd see every reason why Chapman would have won that game. So,
yeah,
just is
yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, I've been trying to get to more of you guys out in the West Coast, just because of interest, and I appreciate the challenges, and I always say like, there's got to be a way among all the other things they have to consider. There's got to be a way for the NCAA to take into account. Like I was talking to Brad Bankhead at Hardin Simmons
Hmm.
in Texas, and he's telling me the average travel time for him is 4 hours a
It's
game,
crazy.
and some of them are 8, right? And I'm like, there's got to be some way to account for that, right? Like, and for you, like, oh, if you're going to have to play a game, like I said, to Colorado, there's got to be some way in which to at least make it a little bit fair. Like, so,
Sure.
maybe you get in 2 days before. I don't know. Again, budgets are not mine, so it's easy to spend other
Yeah,
people's monies. But
for sure. Yeah, I think in this
so,
scenario, I think the way is just the NCAA tournament just has to be open to spending a little bit of money for sure, and just bringing some of those pools to Southern California, and just say,
yeah,
okay, we're going to bring a team instead of us
yeah,
shipping out somewhere, just bring a pod
yeah,
to Southern California, or
yeah,
two
yeah,
pods to Southern California. That's the only way.
yeah, yeah. And it's not like you don't have the facilities. I'll just say that. Like, I
Yep.
mean, you got some great fields, great stadiums that I've seen online. So it's not like you're lacking in that area.
No, for sure. I mean, there was one.
Um,
The NCAA tournament maybe 10 years ago came to one of our teams, and that team went to the round of 16 and lost in penalty kicks to
Mm-hmm.
Loris, I think, in the round
Mm-hmm.
of 16, and then Loris
Yeah.
went all the way to the national final. So it's just like, I
Yeah.
mean, that means our team was right there.
Right there.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because competitively, you're not. Yeah, I mean, competitively, there's not a difference, right? It's not like, oh, the California teams, they play a different style, they can't compete. No, you guys compete when you're given when the opportunity is sort of leveled, right? And you have that. So
yeah, we're getting
that
players from the
intrigues me.
same
That whole
places.
idea.
Yeah, we're getting. I mean,
Yeah.
for sure. Like I said, I don't think East Coast schools have. I mean, it's not like they're getting U.S. national team guys. I mean, they're still getting
Yeah.
MLS
Yep.
Next, ECNL, and top club guys. The same as
Yeah.
us. I
Yeah.
mean, in
Yeah. The
fact,
same
we
pool.
have kids. Yeah, in fact, we have kids from the East Coast MLS clubs coming into our teams, and those are the same teammates that are going
Mm-hmm.
to other places, right? So, yeah, I really back our
Yeah.
conference, and I
Yeah.
really back
Yeah.
the coaches in our conference. I think we have a really strong one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so far I've been impressed. And I've been trying to go online and see if I can't catch some games. And you, it's definitely a different style than the Rock'em Sock'em robots that we have here on the East Coast. It's a little bit more methodical, right? And you got a lot of technical skill. It's fun to watch for a guy like me. Almost sometimes refreshing to watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's changed. Since from when I played to, like I remember when we would go
Mm-hmm.
to Dartmouth and we'd go play Boston College and we'd go play Southwest Missouri State. Like we would know the type of game it was going to be because I played on the West Coast here.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah,
I to credit to those schools and those coaches now. I think there's a little bit more of some proper football being played at times. Not all the time, but
yeah,
there's a little bit more of a
yeah,
blending. I think more than there was 20 years ago.
yeah, yeah. Oh, totally, totally. I mean, back from my day, it was like, how hard are you going to hit and still
Yeah,
stand, right? Like
yeah,
that was a little bit more of that was more of the style. Like
totally,
the
totally.
tactics were leave them bloody. That was the tactic. So,
No, for sure.
um,
That I've lived for sure.
do you like from a recruiting standpoint? Is it mostly? Do you think you mostly stick to the Southern California? Not like it's a dearth of talent there. Like, is that where you recruit from? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love always to bring more Southern California kids to Oxy. What happens sometimes though is a lot of those kids they either have professional or Division 1 aspirations, or if
Mm-hmm.
they're sort of that Division 3 type kid, they maybe want to experience something else, which is crazy because I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
paradise. I don't know why you'd want to experience that, but I don't know why you want to experience snow. Just go visit it in the winter one time. That's enough. But nevertheless, like for me at least, right? But I don't know, 75 degrees every day for me is not so bad. But
Tough
nevertheless,
life. Tough
yeah,
life.
exactly, exactly. But I don't think there's that much, even though our conference and me and I'm out there in Southern California, for example, like I said, on the club side and other stuff. I don't think there's that much still knowledge of what Division 3 is on the West Coast, still for the
Yeah.
West Coast kids, as much as it should be. Whereas it's very much on the East
Mm-hmm.
Coast awareness of the quality of what Division 3 can offer. Whereas here on the West Coast, still for a lot of kids in general, it's kind of looked at almost just in tiers. Like Division 1 is the best, Division 2 is the second best,
Yeah.
Division 3 is the third best.
Yeah.
So I only want to go to the top, as opposed to like the other things. That's a general
Yeah.
consensus of kids on the
Yeah.
West Coast, because they just still don't know
Mm-hmm.
because there's not enough Division 3 schools. There's just nine of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
I can understand that.
But I mean, a lot of kids live near a Division 3 school on the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
In the upper quadrant, right? Like the Northeast Mid Atlantic. Throw a stone, you hit a school, right? And so I think
yeah,
there is a little bit more familiarity probably
sure.
than on your side, which, I mean, you span the whole coast and you have 20 schools that go, you know,
Yep,
500, 600, 700 miles, right? Along a coast.
for
It's not a
sure.
lot. So,
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. So
so do you have this conversation with recruits about D1 or bust? Like, is that something that you try to Like
Yes,
convince
yes,
them
yes.
otherwise, or
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. And we do it in a couple. I mean, we do it. So I run. We run camps as well. So in the camp part, we're always
Hmm.
kind of trying to tell people, look, just consider more options. Just consider what these, not just Occidental, but anywhere else to see what
Hmm.
fits, right? Because that's a bigger part. It's the entire fit component, which I'm sure you've talked about, plenty of times on other podcasts. But that fit is hugely important. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, it's funny. I don't recruit that much against other Division threes too often. I'm often recruiting against the kid that
Hmm.
also has that Division 1 offer, but is he going to play earlier there? Some version of that.
Yeah.
So, I'm still not even truly talking about always the Division 3 aspect in as much as the maybe do you play a little bit earlier? Do you have a bigger impact? Those components of the difference
Hmm.
sometimes between Division 1 and Division 3.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. Like, again, it's something else I didn't think of, just unique to your situation, right? You're surrounded with a lot of great Division 1 programs that, for kids who play, it's probably like aspirational, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how
Yeah,
close
because
they are, but like, hey,
they're
UCLA,
very
I'd
close.
love to go play at UCLA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
everybody would, but it's just not the reality. But
Yeah, for sure. Because around us, I mean, by far, you have the Pac-12, which is those schools.
hmm.
You have the Big West, which has
Oh my
all,
god, yeah,
the Santa, yeah, and then you have the
yeah,
WCC. So you have Loyola Marymount's conference, you have UCLA's conference, you have
yeah,
Cal State Northridge, Cal State Fullerton's conference. So you have all of these Division 1s, and then you have all these Division 2s. Cal State LA won the national title 2 years ago.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
good. Yep.
and you have all of these like really good Division 2s. So that's where
Hmm.
kids kind of see more.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's interesting. Um, okay, so what? Somebody asked you on the elevator, "Hey, how was your season?" What's your response?
It's a deep breath.
If you have an elevator there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No elevators at Oxy, lots of hills and stairs, but actually, there probably are some elevators, I guess. But anyway, we're is walking around. It's a deep breath. It was, look on the face of it, it's successful. You're 10-4-4. Also won your scrimmage games. You've done a decent job. We haven't dropped much, for the most part. So I think that's good. You made it to the final. Um, but I think it's still disappointing is not the right word. Um, but just we could have gone farther is the feeling. It is. I think we absolutely in that
Hmm.
final should have taken care of business. As you kind of alluded to with Claremont season sort of going by the wayside.
Yeah.
A win was taken from us. So really on the facts of the scenario, we actually won the conference of the field.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you feel like, well, we were a little short, undone, by we
Yeah.
actually getting results. We actually got the best results in the conference. It wasn't quite acknowledged. But then we had a chance in the final and we didn't win it. So, that's a part of it as well. So,
Yeah.
um, that's a long answer to look, it was successful. The team is good, but you just want to keep winning, and
They
we're hungry to do that.
they they completely vacated the schedule, so that win against them got removed. From everybody got a game removed.
In the towards conference. So they just made all
Yeah,
of
toward,
the
okay.
all of those games count as non-conference wins. But we had
Hmm.
beaten Claremont at that point. Chapman had lost to Claremont at that point. So
Hmm.
kind of just flip the standings now, right? Because we lost a win and they lost a
Yeah.
loss in conference, and then we ended up tied, right, at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So obviously we ended up 3 points ahead of them theoretically, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, you got to deal with the cards you're dealt, right? Like you can't do
Yeah,
over, unfortunately. And that was sad. I don't know how to explain the CMS situation. Unfortunate, right? Like, anyhow.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. But we still had our chance, no matter what. We were still in the final, and we didn't take care of it. And I
yeah.
think that's one thing for my guys is if you have an opportunity, you got to take advantage of it, and I thought we did okay.
Yeah.
I thought we played all right. I think we certainly had our chances, and it's part of learning experience. But our guys have been very hungry. Our guys have been. It was a good spring. I think we brought in good recruits, and it's a good group.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the fall.
So I'm just looking at it. You lost 1-0 in. Is it double overtime or did you go to PKs? It doesn't say PKs. So.
Double overtime. There's 40 seconds left.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How painful was that, if I may ask?
Yeah, it's okay. Hugely. Thanks for ripping the scar. No. Hugely. We had.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
I can. No, it's okay. No, it's terrible, dreadful. No. I can relive this. Very much. We built. We built out of the back. We played this ball. We played it into one of our freshman center midfielders, who's fantastic all season. One of the top players for me. We had a turnover there. With 40 seconds left, kind of does a foul, near the top of the box, which I understand. I mean, to be fair, then they have the set piece. They've hit it to the back post. Actually, it's the same freshman, heads it back. Then they kind of win a second header, and then a guy does like a bicycle kick. It's like this crazy thing of like,
Oh my God.
yeah. Like I could show you a
Oh
clip.
my
You're just
God.
like, oh my goodness,
Oh my God. You don't have to, because I could visualize it.
Yeah.
I could visualize it, and I think I would be like bleeding tears, just, oh my God. That hurts. That
No,
hurts.
for sure, but it's a good lesson for our guys, and it just made us hungrier to move forward. It does hurt, but I think the hurt has been a good thing. To be honest, I would have preferred to win and not hurt, but having said that, I'm eager, and our guys are eager.
Guys got to learn that too, right? I hate to say it, right?
Absolutely.
Everything can't be rainbows and unicorns. You do have to learn what it's like to get beaten silly and be covered in dirt and still not come out with it, right? And
yeah,
that's a mental note for the next time.
For sure.
Right? It gives you enough of the energy the next time. So
yeah, for sure. We'll take good lessons from it.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you something with the 4 ties. I don't know how they counted those, but do you have any thought? What are your thoughts on the no overtimes? Do you prefer them after having played them, even though you lost in the final there? But like, do you have any thoughts? Would you prefer having overtimes during the regular season, or are you okay with not?
Yeah, I think the rule has to be amended. I think it's actually I feel very strongly about this. I'm okay with no overtime, but they must limit substitutions, because if they're going to have no overtime, you give a weaker team the opportunity to tie a game just by adding subs and making up for the lack of quality with substitutions. Whereas if you say, okay, look, 90 minutes is 90 minutes, no problem. But then if you limit the subs, now if your team has more quality, they can sort of get after it a little bit longer. Whereas if you just, add another 15 guys or another 11 guys that come on the field, that, you can make up for a lack of quality with just energy and more running and more people. So I like that it's 90 minutes, no more, but I just think that we have to get away with unlimited substitution, essentially, if you're going to do that, or else it's an advantage to the teams that aren't as good, to be honest.
You can definitely be disruptive with the subs, like not only even playing style, but they could disrupt you by making subs every throw or whatever to slow you down, right? To prevent you from getting into a rhythm. That's a great point. No one has really commented on that, but that is a great point. Like, how do you keep the game flowing? And
yeah, for sure. And even if it's not to disrupt rhythm, it's just like if you wear down a team, but then they just bring in new guys. So
there's plenty of teams out there that have. There's plenty of teams that I've watched that shall remain nameless that don't have any soccer players on it, but they got like 25, 30 guys who are as energetic and as fast and as strong as anybody, and who run over a 5'2" technical player, because the 5'2" has been playing for 60 minutes, and he's seeing like the fourth iteration of the midfielder or the defender that's been marking him, and is totally fresh the whole time. Okay, so what did you are you still doing your spring practices, or are you done with that?
No, we're done. We finished a few weeks ago, so that's why we had time to do this podcast. Perfect.
What was your what did you have a purpose? You know, like that's a terrible question. Oh my gosh! Of course we had a purpose. Let's play soccer. Did you have something intentional that you wanted to get out of the spring? So hey, we want our guys to be better on the ball. We want them to figure out the formation a little bit better or press more. Is there anything like that you worked on for the spring?
Yeah, of course. Not going to tell anybody though.
That's perfectly. I love that. I love that. Like it took me so long to formulate that in my head. Like what did that? And then to be done. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, no, but I can give you the general components of it though. Yeah, absolutely. We were just definitely trying to get this much better, in certain areas, and we were going to do certain specific things that I think we needed to do. And we were blessed this spring. We were able to bring in and hire in another coach, and this coach was a professional coach.
Nice.
He was in the national team. He worked with Carlos Queiroz. Carlos Queiroz was a Real Madrid manager at one time, and he was also Sir Alex Ferguson's number one at Manchester United for a long time. And you were able to bring this guy in for the spring as well. And it's funny because his how shall I say, interpretation of the college game, I guess, is very unique to what he's like. Why do they do all of these things that they do? I'm like, so I had to fight with him a little bit in some respects, but not fight, but explain. And anyway, he added completely different perspective to us, that's that I think just opened up our spring. And it wasn't without some challenges, because I think sometimes the players and us were kind of like, well, that's not how we usually do it, But for me, because we have a lot of returners for this upcoming year, we didn't graduate a lot in terms of numbers. So I think a lot of our guys initially, just to, be honest, is like, hey, look, we were so close last year. Are we going to do everything totally differently? And, the conversations were like, no, but we're just trying to see if there's just one rock that we can overturn. And maybe there's 1%, that we can just increase, this. I think it was very helpful in the spring, even though there was a little bit of conflict isn't the right word either, just like questions like, hey, wait, but this is how we did it, and this is how but we're just trying to get 1 inch, better in these areas. So I think the spring was very productive in that respect, although it wasn't smooth, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I asked that is because I'm coming to the conclusion that the really good programs, I think, really take advantage to do just that, to become incrementally better for the fall. And it's the ones, and I asked because the whole idea, did you have a purpose? Because I think the more defined and the more concrete it is for what you want to accomplish in the spring, helps a lot more in the fall. So that's the genesis of my question of that.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you can get that 1 degree, right? That just that turning over that one rock, that could mean a 15 or a 14-4 season going to the NCAAs. Right?
Absolutely.
Like that's the difference now.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're So.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. I mean, it's funny. Last year, the 4 losses that we had, we absolutely should have won those games. Those were games that we're looking at, and we're like, oh my gosh, this weird thing, and we improved. The ties were kind of like legit ties, actually. Like those were like, man, that was kind of it's kind of funny the way it works. Yeah. But absolutely, we'll turn those over. I'm positive. I like the group.
But it's true, right? Like that. The difference between, I think at all divisions, but in Division III, right? Sometimes I'm seeing in conferences the difference between the number 10 team and the number 1 team are those like small differences that the number 1 team is just sort of a lot sharper on than the number 10 team. So, especially in like individual conferences, like they just hone their craft better and take advantage of the times they have together to address those things than some of the other teams. At least that's my theory. So
the detail.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's the details. It's the details.
Yeah.
I mean, I can assure you. Well, even that was like, so our coach that we brought in, and he was saying it. He's like, Manchester United at Real Madrid. He's like, it's just the details. It's like he's like when we're looking at all these from his perspective, all these professional clubs. He's like, they all have analytics. They all have physical trainers. They all have like top players. They all have blah 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 blah. But he's like, the difference is the details.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, a couple more questions, and I'll let you get on with your day. But what's your recruiting class look like this year? And are you looking to fill spots, or or is it, or do you have the luxury of just bringing in competitive guys to sort of boost your program?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm excited about it. Of course, like I said earlier, we've just graduated 6 from this group that has gone on to the final. So we didn't have tons of holes to fill, but we lose good players every year. And I say this to coaches all the time, that our senior class was important, and if your senior class is not important, then you've done something wrong as a coach, because you either brought in the wrong players or you didn't develop them. So for me, we're losing important seniors, definitely, but we have juniors and sophomores that are ready to take that mantle, and these freshmen that come in now, they're not expected to have to play and replace my seniors. I do think we have freshmen that are going to play. Without a doubt, we have freshmen that are going to play this upcoming year, but their role, none of them have to replace the senior that graduated. That's already built into our program. Just the way we recruit. So I think that we have a great recruiting class. Some guys are going to play a lot and some guys are going to play less, but it's going to add to the quality and depth of our overall program.
Hey, how big of a deal is it to make sure that you get the right guys too? Like, I get the soccer and all that stuff, but right, you don't want somebody to be a hand grenade that as soon as they walk in the locker room they blow it up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's everything to us. So I guess I don't know how much time we have, but I'll make it very quick. Okay. So, but when I got to Oxy, there weren't many, if any, recorded winning seasons between 1967 and 2010. There were like maybe 1 or 2 seasons ever, and winning season literally just meaning more wins than losses. So like,
9 and 8.
9 and 8. You know what I'm saying? Like there weren't that many. So not like saying 17 and 3. No. 9 and 8. Like there was like maybe 3 seasons of that. Maybe, I don't know. Some of that 2, maybe 2 even. So then, when I inherited a program, okay, fair enough. We got to build it, right? So in year 3, we get to 9 and 8. And I thought, I was like, okay, I got it. I figured it out. Like, great. I finally, like, okay. Year 4, we win our first game 4-0 against UC Santa Cruz. And I feel like, yep, I'm a genius. I got this.
I got this.
And
soccer guys are like, no.
And we end up losing the next 16 out of 18 games. So we end up 3-16.
Holy macro.
So we ended up 3 in 2013.
Holy macro.
3-16. And that season, after that season, right, obviously, that's when I threw everything away. I connected to every coach in the country of every sport I could think of that had been successful. Some Division III coaches. I spoke to Paul McGinley at Trinity, Texas. I spoke to Dave Brandt, who was at Messiah at the time, and now he's back. I was able to talk to him. I was able to talk to other players and other coaches. And what basically the main message is that the culture is everything. Like, you can have this player, that player, whatever the scenario is, but if your culture isn't right, it's going to blow up at some point in your face. And so, to kind of go into the question that you asked me, everything is about the filtering process for us and the culture that we have and the human beings that we bring in. in the recruiting process,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of things on the way to recruitment before we just bring somebody in. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have hand grenades even because of the process of the filtering, as we've gone through, because that
How
is
you get
so
them out?
important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's hugely important to
Yeah.
me. So, there's been
Yeah.
plenty of players that we've looked at that, we have questions on their character. And if there's a question and there's a doubt, then there's no doubt. That's a
You
that's
don't
a
even bother.
that's a
Yeah.
Paul McGinley quote. If there's a doubt, there's no doubt. And
Yeah.
and that's what we work really hard at, and
That's
that's
true.
every single day. And we don't hope for the team chemistry. We work on that every day, and
Yeah.
that's I think a big part of sustained success.
Yeah. I think you look at the really good teams, and that's the one thing they consistently do. You're right. Like over the years, it's not the records are good, but consistently, it's like the quality of the team, the people, the culture is intact, and you see it, and they just sort of build every year to get a little bit better, and keep that culture intact. Right? Like they change obviously
Yeah,
when needed, but there's no hand grenades along the way
yeah,
that destroy it all, and then you basically got to start over again. So,
yeah, for sure.
sorry. Okay, so that wasn't my last question, but this.
It's okay.
um,
It's all right.
hey, now that you're looking at the fall, like do you have you outlined any? Do you have any thoughts about the fall and sort of what you're looking for? Any goals or that or expectations that you may have for the fall that you can share and not divulge too much and become like the rallying cry for other teams. Look at what he said about it. So,
No, no. Well, of course, just like every team in our conference, I would imagine, or at least 6 out of the 9, I would imagine, all feel like they can win this
mhm,
conference tournament, and get into the NCAA tournament. I can envision a world
mhm,
in which more than just us would say we'd like to win the conference tournament, get into the conference tournament and win
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But I think for me is I want us to be better, and there are certain aspects and specifics in those scenarios that I would have. But if I can see a group that is just incrementally better, going back to what we spoke
hmm,
about in every area that we've spoken about, that's what
yeah,
I think we need, and then for us, I mean, in general, right? Of course, you like, can we be better in the football part of it, right? Like the soccer
yeah,
part,
yeah,
of course. But the continuation of our progression to me, like I just see
yeah,
every season as almost a continuation of the last season and a preparation for the
yeah,
next season. It's just
yeah,
it's not an individual part.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, we can probably talk offline if you want about some of those more specifics, but but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, improvements, absolutely.
yeah. All right, Coach. This was fantastic. I do appreciate you taking the time. I really enjoyed uh, catching up, and I'll definitely keep you guys. I watch way too many Division III soccer games, so you will definitely be on my list of teams to watch in the upcoming fall. And maybe actually watch a couple games before then.
Yeah, I'll
But I
send you
wish
a
you the
link.
best.
I'll
You're
send
man
you a
the
link.
best.
Yeah, I'll send you
Oh,
a link of some of our
nice.
games. Yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
that. So you can
yeah,
so that way over the
absolutely.
summer,
So,
some summer watching.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, Coach. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. See you.
If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my chief marketing officer. I think this keeps him happy.